Before you press play on Spider-Noir, you have to make a decision. Black and white, designed specifically for the noir aesthetic, the version Nicolas Cage himself built his performance around. Or full colour, super saturated, styled after 1930s Technicolor comic strips. The version for viewers coming from the animated Spider-Verse films. That choice alone tells you everything about what kind of show this is. And whether this show lives up to that ambition is a more complicated answer than a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes would have you believe. Here's the setup. Ben Riley, not Peter Parker, is an aging private investigator scraping by in Depression era New York, 1933. He was once the Spider, the city's only masked superhero. He gave it up, lost his wife, lost his purpose. Now he drinks too much, takes cases he doesn't care about, and tries very hard not to think about the life he used to live. Then a dangerous case drops in his lap. Corrupt politicians, organized crime, a female fatale with secrets. And Ben is forced to put the costume back on. That's the structure. Retired hero, one last job, confronting the past. It's a setup as old as the noir genre itself. Nicolas Cage has played this character before. He voiced Spider-Man Noir in the animated Into the Spider-Verse in 2018, a role he's reprising in the upcoming Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. This live-action version is a different universe entirely. Same trench coat, different man. And the show is executively produced by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the architects of the Spider-Verse animated universe, which is exactly the kind of creative pedigree that makes you sit up straight. 8 episodes, all dropped at once on Prime Video, roughly 45 minutes each. And whether all 8 of those episodes earn their runtime is where things get interesting. Let me tell you what this show gets genuinely right, and it gets a lot right. Nicolas Cage, that's where I start and where I end. He described his performance as 70% Bogart and 30% Bugs Bunny, and that is exactly what he delivers. The tragic, laconic weight of a man who has lost everything and survived it anyway. And then, in the second half of the season, when the show finally lets him be fully weird, the 30% Bugs Bunny kicks in and it is genuinely extraordinary. He's described Ben Riley as a spider trying to cosplay as a human, and you see that in every scene where the mask slips and something inhuman and ancient comes through underneath. This is Cage doing what only Cage can do. Nobody else on Earth plays this role. The supporting cast is doing serious work around him. Lamorne Morris brings a sardonic warmth to Ben's partner that stops the show from drowning in its own self-pity. Brendan Gleeson is Brendan Gleeson, which means every single scene he's in becomes the most interesting scene in the episode. Lee Jun-Lee is compelling as the female fatale even when the script gives her the thinnest material. And Jack Huston as the antagonist is doing quietly menacing work that deserves more attention than it's getting. The black and white cinematography from Darren Tiernan and Peter Deming is the most beautiful thing Amazon has put on screen in years. The 1930s New York production design, the rain, the shadows, the fog rolling off the East River, is meticulous. And when the show commits to its tone, when it stops explaining itself and just lets the atmosphere sit, it becomes something genuinely transportive. There are individual scenes, particularly in episodes 5 and 6, where you completely forget you're watching a superhero show. You're just watching a noir, and that's a remarkable achievement. Now here's where I have to be straight with you, because the 91% on Rotten Tomatoes is telling you one thing, and episodes 2 through 4 are telling you another. The Hollywood Reporter's review made a specific point that I agree with completely. You could skip 3 or 4 episodes entirely and not miss anything essential. Episodes 2 through 4 in particular are where Spider-Noir loses its footing. The case of the week structure becomes repetitive. Ben confronts a new piece of conspiracy, gets beaten up, recovers, has a meaningful conversation with Morris's character, confronts the next piece. Repeat. The show mistakes atmosphere for momentum, and there are stretches where nothing is actually happening beneath the beautiful surface. The mythology is also thinner than it should be. Ben's backstory, his wife, his reasons for giving up the spider identity, is communicated in bullet points rather than felt experience. The conspiracy at the center of the season is functional but not particularly inventive, and Variety's criticism stings because it's accurate. This is occasionally a beautiful bore. The visual style is there, the emotional depth is intermittent. The show was submitted to the Emmys as a comedy, and once you know that, certain scenes make more sense. There's a deliberate absurdism to Cage's performance that reads as a comedy more than a drama. But the marketing has sold this as a straight noir, and some viewers are going to arrive expecting one thing and find another. That disconnect is the show's biggest communication problem. Here's where I land. Spider-Noir is a show I admire more than I love, and a show I recommend with one specific instruction. Watch it in black and white, not as a stylistic preference, as a fundamental viewing decision. Cage designed his performance for black and white. The cinematographers shot for black and white. The production designers dressed the sets for black and white. In color, this show is beautiful. In black and white, it is something else. It is genuinely atmospheric in a way that television almost never achieves. The color version is for Spider-Verse fans curious to see where the character came from. The black and white version is the actual show. And the actual show at its best, episodes 1, 5, 6, and the finale, is something I haven't seen in superhero television before. A genuine attempt to make a noir film that happens to have a man in a spider costume in it. Nicolas Cage doing career best character work. A supporting cast that makes the material better than it has any right to be. And enough visual ambition to make you forgive the dead middle of a season that could have been 6 episodes instead of 8. I'm giving Spider-Noir a 7 out of 10. Watch episodes 1, 2, then skip to 5. You'll thank me later. And definitely watch it in black and white. Like the video if this helped, subscribe for weekly reviews. And the question I need answered in the comments, black and white or color? Because I've told you what I think, but I want to know which version you picked and whether I'm wrong. See you next time.